Welcome to the HVAC CEO Podcast. I'm Sarah Gonzales, founder of RS Gonzales, the marketing agency built only for HVAC. This is where HVAC owners become the CEO of their business and the name everyone knows in town. Every week, I sit down with owners who've grown it, broken it, and figured it out so you can grow with confidence, build a team you trust, and take back your time. Because this was never just about fixing units. It's about building something that runs without you, a business, a team, and a life you're proud of. Let's get to work. Good afternoon and welcome to the HVAC CEO Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Gonzales. This is where we sit down with industry leaders for the kind of frank conversations that help you grow your business, lead with confidence, and build the kind of team that you've always dreamed of. Today, I'm really excited to say hello to Austin Wendel. He is the founder of Accounting for Trades. So we are going to be talking about the money today because that is where people's business either flourishes or flounders. So Austin, welcome. It's so nice to have you.
Thanks, Sarah. I'm super pumped to be here. Thank you.
Great. Austin, tell us a little bit about ourselves. Tell us about Accounting for Trades.
So Accounting for Trades is a fairly new business. What we focus on is the trades. I mean, it's kind of in the name, but it's HVAC, plumbing, and electrical owners is our niche. That's all we work with. And that really helps us to really get an idea of the businesses. And we can be a lot more valuable than just a standard generic bookkeeper. And we focus on the operational accounting side. So we don't do taxes at the moment. All we do is the operational bookkeeping. And the goal there is that the owners know their numbers, understand their numbers, and can actually use all of that information to drive business decisions rather than just like, oh, hey, my bank account has $100,000 in it. We should be good, right?
And I bet you hear that a lot, right?
More often than I'd like, yes. But we're working towards fixing it.
Yeah. And so how did you end up niching down? I mean, it's obviously we are a niche digital marketing agency, so I understand the virtues of being really specialized. But how did you end up coming to HVAC, plumbing, and electrical as opposed to ice cream shops?
I mean, great question. So my dad and uncle were both in trades, different ones than HVAC plumbing. My uncle, he ran a carpet cleaning business, but it's a lot of the same business model. So I worked there since I was 14 years old and just helping him throughout the business. So I really got to see, the service side aspect. So I was already drawn to the industry in that regard. And then my dad was also a technician. He worked for a variety of other companies, but still similar, in trade, residential service. So it was just a natural call when I went to go do this. That was like, I know these people. I understand the business model. Let's see what we can do to help.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So you must see some pretty crazy horror stories when people come to you with their books and they say to you, I'm busy all day long. In July, I'm working till 2 a.m. Why can't I pay my mortgage?
My goodness, I have so many stories that we could share, but I don't want to spend the whole podcast on that necessarily. But
you don't want to be a downer.
Yeah, I know. One of the most recent ones I had was an owner came to us. They really just wanted a second look. It wasn't anything crazy. And we were just poking through doing our normal deep diagnostic that we do. And what we found kind of surprised us. So their current bookkeeper, they had somebody who was already supposed to be doing the job that we do. Their current bookkeeper was hiding money in the business, was purposefully writing themselves their own checks. It was just a bad checks and balance system. But ultimately, they had stolen $12,000 from this business. And that was only in 1 month. Thankfully, they asked us to look so quick because they had no idea.
Of course. And you're moving so fast. And to tell you the truth, for most entrepreneurs, the money side, they want the money on the back end, but managing the money is the boring part.
It really is. Yeah, no, absolutely. Nobody wants to be sitting there clicking inside QuickBooks all day long. Out there doing the work is where you actually make the money. It's just how much you keep on the back end is what the numbers will tell you.
Yeah, it's so true. And so when you look at HVAC, when do you see that people need to have the financial management in place? When do they need to hire the bookkeeper and the accountant? And because everyone wants to do DIY as long as they can, right?
Yeah, and I think DIY is great as long as you know what you're doing. What we end up with is a lot of these solo or smaller shops, they DIY for so long and they didn't have a good foundation or there wasn't enough resources initially. They were focused on the other 3,000 aspects of running a business that bookkeeping just fell off. And so then the numbers are just an absolute mess. So you should be on QuickBooks from day one. Before you even launch solo, make QuickBooks. It can be your basis. It does a lot of the stuff. It doesn't do anything really well. but it is a software that you can invoice out of. You can run a scheduling out of. Like, it'll do everything you need to run a really solo business. So always start there. And then you have the numbers, and it's a software that your accountant will be able to log in and check out and give you go, no go. And there's a ton of resources available where people can help you learn how to do it. But to answer your question, like where we typically start seeing a lot of value is once people start to hire. So, once they start valuing that, hey, it's going to take more than just myself to run this business, that's where bringing on a fractionalized bookkeeper, I wouldn't hire in-house at that point, but bringing on somebody that is only going to charge you for the time that they're spending on your stuff and keeping that clean so that way you can make better decisions. You would hate to be running, even a small business that isn't profitable. So make sure that you're profitable.
Yeah. And this is where I see it so often is that revenue looks good. Someone's making, you have a contractor, they're making $1 million, $2 million a year. And they're like, my God, it's still hard to pay my people. And every month it's a scramble. And we see that more with, private equity is gobbling up HVAC companies. And so people are spending more on marketing, their equipment costs are higher than ever. There's just macroeconomic factors, inflation that's making this harder and harder to get your hands around the numbers. So when you go into companies, what are the numbers that you want to see the owner knowing? Like on the tip of their finger, this is what you need to master.
My absolute favorite number for an owner to know is gross profit by job. If you could tell me which jobs, or at a minimum, which job types are profitable and how profitable, that's awesome. Like that's our gold standard. That's what we absolutely. I think it's a little overkill for some of the smaller shops. Like it is a lot of accounting / bookkeeping, but that's your goal. So you need to know your gross profit by job. And the reason for that is because it all stems from there. So we take your revenue, right? You got $1 million of revenue coming in. If we're shooting for a gross profit of, 50 to 60%, which is what we typically see in the industry, and then you have your standard overhead of 30%, well, what's that leave you with? Well, you're 10 to 20% net. And that's what we're all shooting for here.
Yeah.
So it all trickles back to the gross profit. If the gross profit is low, then we can look and see, all right, are we underpricing? Or is it our materials? Is it our labor?
Yeah.
We'd be able to dial that in really quickly and understand. Or if your gross profit is dialed in, but your net profit isn't, well, then we know it's in overhead. Like you can point right to the solution.
Yeah. So just to simplify it, if I'm doing an install and it's a $10,000 install, how do I calculate my gross profit? What's coming out of that $10,000 that I'm looking to achieve 50, 60% gross profit margin? I'm just trying to bottom line it for people to make it simple.
Nope, simple. So all materials. So what does it cost you in materials to do the job? So that's going to be all of your equipment, all the little consumables, all of the materials. And then second is going to be labor. So you're going to have labor costs in there, and that should be your fully loaded labor rate. So I don't want to dive in to keep it simple, but ultimately that's, what it costs to own the employee, not necessarily just what you pay them hourly. And then there are some little ones, like if you have to pull a permit, that's still a cost to do the job. If you if you take a credit card to pay for the job, that's a processing fee. There's 3% right there. Yeah. Put that in cost of goods. So anything that is a cost to do the install that you wouldn't have to do to just keep the lights on.
Okay. And how do you compare your gross profit margin for installs, service, repairs?
So that's a great question. Yeah. So it's going to blend a little bit. You'll be more profitable on some versus others.
Yeah.
It typically varies kind of almost by part of the country from what we see, because we work with everybody across the country. So like different locales are different. We target a 50% blended, more or less 55 blended. We do see that like a maintenance, when you guys are running those maintenance contracts, those actually run a really poor gross profit margin typically because people have already prepaid it. But what it does is it gives you opportunities for service, which is fantastic.
Yeah, of course.
Service is going to probably run a little lower, 45-ish% or so alongside.
And installs, now, are you getting above 50% on, because everyone wants the installs. Everyone, all we want is, as a marketing agency, everyone's like, I don't care about service and repairs, just send me a lot of installs. I'm like, well, building a business is a little more complicated than that. But on a per unit basis, how are your gross profit margins for installs versus service?
Yeah, you're right. So installs, we typically do see the gross profit margin drop off, like a 45, 50% for those. And then we'll see the supplement to pull the whole company up on the service side. And that'll be, 55 to 70% gross profit on service. So
yeah. And with the smaller shops, I mean, everyone talks to me about, equipment costs are going up, labor costs are going up. So how do people get squeezed? And then how do you talk to your clients about, maybe you need to think about your pricing or something's got to give here, right?
Yeah, and that's why I love the gross profit by job. Because if you're looking at it by job, let me throw two scenarios at you. If you're looking at it by job, you know whether you made money on that job or not. Right there, once you're done with the job. If you're looking at gross profit on like a monthly basis, then you're delayed. Your reaction time is delayed. So you're not catching whether or not the equipment prices have went up in the last month. And so trying to stay on top of that is what we like to do. And the way we do that is, price book, price book, price book, staying on top of your price book for your estimates and quoting. And that all is just kind of a circular loop. Did I make money? If not, why? Then bada bing, bada boom. Is it I wasn't charging enough, or did we underbid?
Yeah. Yeah. And where are the things that you see people are bleeding money on the most?
Whew.
Where do I begin?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, overhead creep is a real big thing, especially that range that you mentioned, the like $1 to $2 million shops when they're really trying to grow. Like growth sucks so much capital because they got to buy the new truck, they have to upgrade the shop. Like a lot of these guys don't have all that overhead, and it's really tricky to navigate because you want to buy enough stuff that you have room for the growth, you have the capacity, but you don't want to buy so much that you're cash struck. So a lot of times we see some shops in that range where they'll have great gross profit, but then it just all gets eaten up in overhead.
Yeah. Yeah. I always know someone's going to be really successful when they come to us and they're like $2 million and their website is the worst. And their vans have this little sticker that they bought on Amazon. And I'm like, that is someone that hustled like hell to get where they were. They saved every penny. They put every penny back into the business. They didn't try to front and be something they weren't. They must go into that client and absolutely deliver an A+ experience and an incredible install. I'm like, the sky's the limit for you, right? As opposed to the people who over-engineer from the start with the $75,000 van, and they come to me and they're like, well, I spent $50,000 on a website. And I'm like, you don't have $50,000?
Exactly. No, you nailed it 100%. Like marketing is a huge spend. Like that's 10-15% of revenue for some of these companies at least.
Yeah.
And if they're doing the 2 mil with a 1% spend, like now we're talking plenty of margin.
No, totally. I always tell if someone's a good entrepreneur, if you look at the bottom of their shoes and it's just totally scuffed, they have been hustling around to every business, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I am seeing a lot of people with private equity feel really, really pressed to spend a lot more money on marketing. You talk about like, we do have people who come to us and they've only been spending 1 or 2%. And it's really, they built it because of relationships, or maybe they have a few good clients on the light commercial side. And so they have a good blend there. But people feel so much pressure and they come in and they're like, gosh, these guys down the street are spending $100,000 a month on Google ads. And then we are looking at this, of course, from the marketing side, and we try to see all of their business, but it's really hard then to get them to think about how then it can create a company that is still profitable and differentiate themselves without trying to chase this sort of Sisyphean effort to compete with, $100 million roll-up.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct there. It can be tough and overwhelming to try to compete with that much capital, in all honesty. Like if you're the little guy trying to fight Goliath, by all means, it can feel overwhelming, but there's a lot of the market that doesn't appeal to necessarily that big business. They still like to support the person that they know will actually deliver, and that isn't just going to send them to a robot dialer kind of thing.
Totally. Yeah.
I think that is a huge way that a lot of businesses can stand out. And it all comes down to just product delivery, like making sure you're continuing to deliver, keep building those reviews. It's slow, but it definitely compounds. And then you can accentuate or accelerate it with something like what you guys do, where you're then getting the word out there to a broader audience.
That's right. But you got to get the install right. I mean, you can't, you're not going to be a great business for very long if you do a crappy install every time. Like people are going to figure it out eventually, right? Yeah.
And I think social media glamorizes like how quick a lot of this happens. Like everybody's like, 3 months, I'll be a $4 million business. And it's like, no, it's a much slower process.
It is so true. And I think that we as a society and we as entrepreneurs have really gotten into this idea that every business is like Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook, and he was, in his Harvard dorm room. And then 6 months later, he was a $50 million company. And then 2 years after that, he, hit $1 billion. I was like, guys, most of America and most of small businesses just doesn't run like that. And so when people come with that, the problem is in the home services is that people sometimes will come with that sort of fantasy, but then their financing structure is not, well, we have all these, venture capital firms just funding us for a loss for years at a time. I'm like, no, you guys have to be profitable from day one. So you can't think that you're going to grow revenue, not profit, but revenue, like the sky's the limit,
Yeah, exactly. So build your foundation, make sure that you're profitable, even as a small company. Like you should honestly be more profitable with less overhead. Make sure you have that, because if you're the 1 or 2%, market spender, that means we could bump that up to 10% if you're charging appropriately and you're delivering the same level of service that they are. And that's the acceleration.
I know people come to me with $1 million in EBIT. I'm like, that's really good. I was like, a lot of these companies you're writing about in the news wish they had that. Yeah. They may have $10 billion in revenue, but they are losing money.
Exactly. Like revenue's a fantasy or a glory number. All we care about is a bit of net. Like, just give it to us.
Exactly. What's the saying is, revenue is vanity, profit is sanity.
Yes. Love that saying. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Yeah. So I know you kind of have a model that you coach people on in terms of the different stages of their business and how they can be thinking about what they need in bookkeeping and financial management at different stages. Talk to me about how you coach people when they come to you in those early stages and they have dreams of entrepreneurship in their eyes and they want to start their business, and how you talk to them about what's realistic and what they really need to be thinking about. Because I bet you get a lot of the same questions we do from people who want to start their business. And it's really about coaching them about, is this the right time? Do you really know how hard this is going to be?
You nailed it. The timing is so key. And then the second to that is setting expectations. So for that guy that's a technician that, he's been doing it. He knows how to do the work, but he doesn't know how to run a business or never have before. We get a ton of that. And the key there is just a couple of things. We got to be very careful with the entire process. First and foremost is get the household in order. This is a weird one, but make sure your wife is on board, because she's not going to see you. It takes a lot to start a business.
It is not a weird one. And I love that that's part of your mentality, because people do not think about this. And I will say, as an entrepreneur who has a very happy marriage and has been married for 19 years to a man who is so patient with me, if I didn't have that foundation, it would be so difficult. It would be such chaos. There would be so many moments when, how could I move forward as an entrepreneur if the home life was not, yes, go work 16 hours a day. Yes, worry this month about whether we can pay our mortgage, because we support you and we believe in you.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's so important, because it can make or break, honestly, the business, the relationship, and you got to be careful there. And you touched on the next part of it is can we pay this? And that's the next thing we talk about is you got to look a little internally here. How do you manage money? If you somehow got access to another couple $100,000 in capital, are you going to manage it well? The easy one to check is your credit score, right? Do you have a good credit score? If not, you need to understand why. I'm not saying you have to have one. It does absolutely help in the financial realm, but just understanding why you don't have a good one can already open you up to questions you need to answer before you go and start a business.
Yeah. Well, and I think that it's in the moment that you start a business, there's this huge disconnect between us as entrepreneurs who are inveterate optimists. We like to believe that we can do everything. And then the hardcore reality that something is going to go wrong in this business and you're going to need to have a little safety net. So people will come to me and they're like, yeah, I'm a technician, 20 years of experience. I've done everything from installs to service to sales. I got this covered. And I have enough money. I have $10,000 in the bank. And so as long as we can be profitable within 30 days with your marketing fees and my Google ad spend included, then I'm totally fine. And I'm like, well, okay, so if you get the flu or your kids are home from school for a day or it snows in May, is this plan completely off, right? Like if one thing goes wrong, then that probably is not a solid plan, you know?
100%. Oh my gosh, I love the way you laid that out. That was fabulous. No, exactly. Like you need a safety net, a survival number, if you would. Like,
Yeah.
what does it take to run your life on a month to month basis? Like,
Yeah.
make sure you have that pushed away. Like 10,000. If you can live for 6 to 12 months on that, fabulous. Like now we're talking. I know.
And cheese.
That is a ton, but like that's what we look for is like, hey, let's have a safety net of 6 to 12 months because however long you think it's going to take, like multiply that by a bunch because you're going to hit so many roadblocks, so many things that are going to cost money, and then
Yeah.
like you're also missing all the capital influxes. Like if you hire a marketing firm, what if you have to go buy a truck, wrap your truck? Like all of these things start bleeding your money away. So I'd be very, very hesitant to start it on a budget that small by all means.
I know. And sometimes I feel like I'm such a Debbie Downer to people because they come and they're so excited and they're like, we're going to do this. And they're like, I want to give you money. And I'm like, no, please take your money. Let's talk again in 6 months. Read our newsletter. I'll send you a ton of content. Like, get this in order. I don't want to take your money because this is not going to end well for you.
Yeah, it's just too soon. I mean, it's just the wrong timing. What we'd almost prefer is if their business will allow it is some side work. Like that is the absolute best way. But do that properly. Like still create an LLC, get the EIN. Most of that is super cheap, really easy.
It really is, yeah.
And for me, oh my gosh, get a business checking account, please. Like just run all of your expenses through that. Like put your 10 grand into there and see how quickly like you burn through it kind of thing. Part-time. Yeah.
You must hate it. Like everyone comes to you with like their Netflix subscription and their business stuff all commingled, and you're like, no.
It just makes the job so much harder, and it hurts them too because they don't know what's mixed. So
yeah,
we'll sort through it, obviously, but honestly, I'm more scared of that from like an IRS tax perspective. Because if you start commingling funds, then the IRS is like, well, that's a free pass that everything's commingled. So I'm going to question the entire set of books now.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's when you get into some real trouble. So when people get past that like first stage and they're like, what, 500,000 in revenue, and they kind of like maybe are able to pay themselves at that point, like at that point, what should they be looking for? There's a lot of real challenges at that point, but what are you seeing as the challenges when they kind of get to that second stage where they're actually a real business?
Right. So you moved out of this part-time. So now you're working full-time to make 300 to 500. Typically at that point, I see two different like types of companies. I have the guy that's already purchased a bunch of overhead. He's got the trucks, he's got the office, he's got all this stuff. Or I have the guy that's super duper profitable and who has been working out of his home, for instance. I love the guy that's been super profitable because he typically is sitting on a lot more cash. And that's what's going to be needed for that next stage that you're talking about. And it's where you honestly have to start hiring because you no longer can do all of the work. Like typically I would see that person, they're booked out 2, 4, 6 weeks. Like they've have jobs on the calendar. There's like, hey, I'm full. I have the demand. So it makes sense. Like let's do that first hire.
Yeah.
But before you make that step, ride out that wave until you have enough cash to get through the growth that's required here. Because you're going to have to buy a truck. You're going to have to train. You're going to make the wrong hire. Absolutely.
You are. Yeah. And this is so hard. I mean, we know what a shortage of labor there is in the HVAC industry. I mean, every one of these big companies is building data centers now, and they are freaking out because their existential crisis is there's just not enough plumbers, electricians, and HVAC contractors to fuel the AI growth of our economy. So like there is a real shortage. So when you're looking at the smaller contractors that they're making their first hire, how are you seeing them do that successfully and profitably? Are they doing subcontracting? What type of person are they looking for? An apprentice or not, that they can actually compete for these sometimes pretty sky high salaries and expectations that a lot of people have when there is this disparity between labor supply and demand?
Yeah, depending on what kind of lead time they're looking at, subcontracting I've seen very, very successful. Some people love that business
Yep.
work platter. It stinks because you don't necessarily get control over the work, but some people have a lot of success with it, and that is
Yep.
largely dependent on the relationships.
Yeah.
But then otherwise, I typically see they're hiring like a mid to high tier tech, somebody with experience, because they want to be able to more or less hand it off to them.
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally, we'll see the solo guy that has an apprentice just to help speed up his own workflow. But when they're really look to put another truck on the road and drive more revenue and more growth, like you need experience at that point. And it's tough. Like our mantra is always, hire fast. Once you're ready, you have the cash flow. But be willing to review, hire, and fire faster, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean and it's true. I mean, we are not trying to inadvertently run nonprofit businesses, right? I mean, you have to have good people, and you have to have them delivering. And then it's not the easiest part of running a business, but I do feel like that first or second hire is so, whatever industry you're in, but it's just so important, because that's going to set the key for having your culture and the kind of people that you can get later, because that's the big leap. It's like, building a job for yourself. Like, okay, it's hard, but it's doable. But then once you have that first hire, like real first hire, that's when you have a business.
When you think you have good systems solo, like say you're on House Call Pro or Java, right? For all these guys, solo ones, then you start throwing another employee in there, you would have no idea that they could press so many different buttons. Like it's hilarious how your processes and systems just break down. So it's a great test to throw a new hire into your systems and find and start plugging the holes that are going to break.
Yeah. And one of the big things we find as a challenge at this stage is the answering the phones. And so here you are, you're, experienced technician, but you're still there doing the sales, doing the installs, maybe even doing some service calls. And then all of a sudden you're answering the phones yourself because you want to bring in the leads. And AI, like, let's be honest, AI phone answering services, like, at 2 a.m, people accept them, but at 4 p.m. when they want to talk about, parting ways with $17,000 for a new carrier system, they really want to talk to a human being. And so I actually find one of the biggest challenges is helping people think through who the heck do I have answering the phones, which in effect becomes my, sales, dispatch, customer service person. And do I do that person offshore? Do I have them in the office? Are they an hourly person? I'd be interested to hear how you work through that with your clients, because I find that a very important hire that they often take 3 or 4 iterations to get right.
Yeah. So like once you're in that 2 truck range and you're starting to get so busy, and that's when the office person starts becoming important, especially when you're doing installs where you have permits and other things to pull. Like the paperwork starts stacking up pretty significantly. Yeah. So you already mentioned there's several ways to kind of tackle the problem. What we typically don't see is a full-time office person very suddenly. Like typically you need enough revenue. Depends on their overhead. If they have really low rent, they can typically afford it. So from our side, we try to say like, because we can see, all through all these HVAC businesses that we work with, we know what percentage a business can basically spend on an office person. And if that covers a salary, great. We'd love to employ another person. But a lot of times at that stage, it doesn't. It's just not enough revenue coming in. So ultimately, there's the AI answering services. Agreed. Not very great. There's a bunch of other call services where you get humans. We do find they're a great stopgap for a couple $100,000, especially during the growth phase. The foreign answering services, can be a stopgap. People like those. If you have a grandma or mother that's retired, hire them immediately to answer your phones. That is the absolute best solution we've seen.
I agree, because they care.
They do
care about customer service, and they care about your success in a way that anyone you can pay money to just doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, I would find other business owners and ask them what they were doing. What ultimately, you're probably going to have to try all the solutions, see which one you like. And it's kind of a trust but verify, just like any of your other hires, like very diligently check your call ratios, keep an eye on how things are getting answered, how your booking rates are going. Like you were doing it yourself, right? You cared ultimately for your business. When you hire somebody, you should not see that drop off just a cliff. If you did, then we're missing something.
Yeah. This is where I feel like AI is really, really helpful, because actually one thing that we do for all of our clients is, we run Google ads and Google local service ads and Yelp ads and Meta, and where the rubber hits the road is who's answering the phone, how are they doing, how often are they following up with that person, because people get busy and they don't always respond to the estimate the first time you'd like them to, all of that, right? And we listen to every single call for every single one of our clients, because I'm like, you're going to spend $80 or $110 on a lead from Google. Are you really going to let it founder on the person who's answering the phones? And P.S., I could sit here and say, well, it's not my job. I'm a marketing agency. But you're still going to get mad at me if you don't get more money in your bank account. So it becomes my problem if this person is not delivering for you. So one of the most common conversations we're having, and by the way, this is not just with the guys that like $500,000, $800,000 on the road. We're still having this conversation with our clients at 10 million, where I'm like, let's listen to some of these call recordings together. Like, do you feel that person really ably was an ambassador for your company when they got into an argument with someone on the phone? Or it's more common is just, well, they didn't follow up with this person 7 times until the end of the earth for that $27,000 estimate you sent. Wasn't it worth like 4 more phone calls from that person to potentially close that deal? Because the person was just busy. They're not ignoring you. They just got busy with their kids' ballet lessons and making dinner and life, right? So,
yeah, and that's where I love data as an accountant. So, like data-driven decisions. So if you would fall what? You would look at call rate percentage or book calls relative, and look how the conversion rate. If you're seeing the conversion drop off, you could typically correlate that to, did I hire a different service or whatnot? And then again, now all right, I need to either change the service, change the person, and or it's my processes. Like me as the business owner, I failed the person I hired because I didn't put in the right expectations.
Yeah, that's right. And I like it because it helps people get a little competitive, because we'll be like, well, across all our clients, we can tell you that when it's a repair and it's a Google local service ads call, people are closing at 85% because their air conditioning is broken and it's 96 degrees. Like, there's not much to close there. They need you to come, right? But your close rate is 35%. Let's just sit on that for a second. What do you think the problem is?
That's a pretty quick hand raise for me. Like, oh, what are we doing wrong? Like, help.
Right. Yeah. I mean, but those are, I mean, I'm sure you have these conversations. These are tough conversations to have with people, because, you want to have them in the most non-judgmental way. We all have problems in our business. I do, you do, everyone does. And so to have them in a non-judgmental way where it's like, let's just problem solve through this together. But, maybe Aunt Matilda, who's answering the phones, is not the person you need answering the phones, 6 months from now.
100%. Yes. Keep an eye on it. Keep track of it. And unfortunately, even if you get it right for a little bit, it might break later. You're going to have to continue to keep an eye on it.
Totally. I mean, and this is how I always think of, like, I think, and this is, we were talking about earlier with, like, when people start businesses and they have these stars in their eyes and they see these billion and trillion dollar companies that we have in the United States now, it's like they see the exterior of a company like Apple and they think that company is just perfection. And I'm like, no, every company is just duct tape and hope pushed together. And we all have so many problems in the company, and you're just trying to get better problems, just different problems, and so it's okay that your problem is sales right now, because you'll have a new problem with sales or dispatch or whatever 2 years from now and $2 million in revenue more. It'll just be a little different.
Yeah, you're always, as a business owner, you're always chasing what is the current restraint. There's typically, like 5-ish pillars. You have your lead flow, which is what you typically help with. You're going to have the conversion of those leads, sales. Yeah. You have fulfillment, which is actually getting the work done. Operations, what keeps everything together. And then the whole finance pillar as well. Yeah. And you'll find a constraint, and you just got to fix that constraint. Like, what's preventing me from growing at this point in time?
Yeah. So at what moments do you feel like you're most therapist to your clients, where you're like, okay, I really need to talk about this part of your business in terms of the constraints?
For us, it's going to be tax time. Like, they hate just giving their CPA a pile of statements, and they're like, I have no idea what we're going to do here. So that usually is what hits them in the face, and is like, we need help more often. And then it's the $2 million guy who's like, man, do I fire everybody because I was way more profitable as just a solo truck kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so when they raise their hand and find us, Usually we're like, hey, X, Y, and Z is wrong. Because again, just like you, right, we can compare across businesses. So we know
Yeah.
really quickly.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, cool. Now I can make 10, 20% on 2 million plus my salary because I'm still active in the business. Ooh, that looks a lot better.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, now growth looks a little more interesting again.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would be remiss if we didn't, as entrepreneurs, have some sort of conversation about AI. How do you feel like you talk about data? How do you feel like the ability to use AI has changed how you do business or how you can analyze data for your customers and give them better information and intelligence on their business?
First, I have to mention like security. So with what we have access to, security is our number one priority with AI because nobody really knows what's going on. It's kind of a black box, even though they'll admit it. So we have to be very, very diligent, run everything through enterprise level where they're not using any of that data, make sure we're not putting names in anything. Nothing sensitive goes into AI within our business. And that's so crucial with what we're dealing with. But
So smart.
from an efficiency perspective, it is a great tool for defined workflows. If you have a very consistent input and a very consistent output, currently AI is awesome to automate through that. It does struggle a bit if you're like, I'd say it's a really dumb employee. If you would just put it into a whole bunch of general tasks like you would throw an employee, it's not very good. So you definitely have to plug it into specific workflows, but it has absolutely sped up our analysis that we do for month end, a lot of our copy, for emails, for reports and things. Like it's a great spell checker there.
Yeah.
That's largely what we use ours for. I'd love to hear what are you guys doing?
Oh gosh, what are we doing? So, well, on the financial side, I have my own little finance agent that I can just go into my Claude Visual Studio Code and be like, hey, who hasn't paid yet this month? Or what invoices are outstanding? Or tell me what our 3-month trailing gross profit margin was. Or, I could just ask little questions. Whereas, before I might have had to labor through actually the user interface of QuickBooks. So I like it because I can just do these like dashboards on the fly, this data on the fly, so I can really get a little bit more of a moving picture of the business. But I mean, we are using AI for our clients, and we do websites, we do search engine optimization, we do social media. We are using it in every single aspect of our agency. Like, so for example, when we onboard a new client now, we create a brain for them. We call it like the client intelligence brain. And so we're asking them, we do a 2-hour structured interview where we're asking them all about their business, their pricing, who works in the business. What's it like when someone calls you? What's the experience of that from the first time they call you to you going out to the house, to the moment you're there, making sure that your shoes are not muddying up their carpet when you're going, into the attic to take a look at the furnace or what have you. All of those questions and we record all of that so that we can truly hear their voice on the website, that we can really get into their brain. So where I see the possibility of AI from a marketing standpoint is it gives the customer the opportunity to have an incredibly customized experience of shopping. In other words, like if it's important to me to hire a train dealer, or if it's important to me to hire someone who understands how my, house that was built in 1830 and still has an aging boiler, how that works, then I can find someone who does that, provided that company has explained on their website and in their marketing materials exactly how we deal with every single kind of customer, what makes us special, what it's going to be like to work with us, what that experience is going to be like financially, emotionally, in terms of trust signals, how it's going to span not just a day, but many years potentially, right? So that all starts with capturing that particularity from the client and then instantiating that through their website, their social media, their email marketing, everything. So it's like what I find so satisfying about it is that you still see all these HVAC websites that are like, our trusted NATE certified technicians are the best in Tacoma, Washington. And that's fine, but it doesn't really tell you anything about what it's going to be like to work with these people, how much it's going to cost me to get a system. So the ability to get inside the owner's brain and really telegraph their values, their culture, their systems, their processes in everything. To me, that is the beauty of AI. And then there's no mistakes. We don't ever wonder, like, do they do duct cleaning or do they absolutely hate duct cleaning? Or how do they feel about mini splits? We know, we've asked them, and that's throughout their marketing materials.
Okay. So to take that like a little step further, you previously, let's think, just a couple years ago where people were doing all this through Google, right? They would search for like HVAC near me, but like we're inherently kind of lazy. We keep our searches pretty short when we have to type them.
Yeah.
But you're saying that now the AI knows the client, right? Because they've been talking to it about all the other parts of their life. So then when it goes to say, hey, I need help with this, or I've been troubleshooting this, I can't fix it or whatnot, because you guys have all this other context built into the SEO, the engine, the social media, that's kind of a key to how AI becomes more your friend at that point. And
yeah, I mean, I think it's a really, so we all used to shop for things like, what are the best running shoes?
yes,
What is the best exercise regime for a 50-year-old mother of two? Whatever, right? So it was all best of. What's the best HVAC contractor in Washington, D.C.? Well, what best this is like an sort of like an epistemological shift of like, what does best mean? What does it mean to be the top rated? What does it mean to be the number one? Like, what are the best shoes for running? Well, that kind of depends on whether I run 60 miles a week or whether I'm a first time runner who's just trying to lose 20 pounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what is the best HVAC contractor in Washington, D.C. becomes a question of, how do I, Sarah Gonzales, find the best company for my particular needs in this particular moment? And so it's more like a match.com.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, my perfect spouse, my husband is the perfect person for me, but he wouldn't be the perfect person for everyone. So I think that what we can say for HVAC contractors is like, be the perfect person for the person that you can most satisfy their needs, and then make your marketing all about who you are and who you can serve with perfection, because it's not just about, well, this company has 832 5-star reviews and you only have 830, so they're better than you. No, it's like, it's become an apples to oranges comparison, because each one of us now can distinguish exactly what we need, not just from, by the way, what I do and what we do as a marketing agency, but also from all the reviews out there. So if you have a contractor and all their reviews say, oh, well, Sean was so reliable and he came to the house on 4th of July, even though it was so hot, and he helped my family. And then we had a great conversation and he stayed for our picnic. Like, that's a review. It tells you a lot about that company, right? And that's just sitting there on Google or Reddit or Facebook or wherever that person's put the review. But it's telling a story about the company that then I, as the consumer, can say, "Ooh, is that the story that appeals to me?"
that is fab. I love how you're saying it's so customized to the individual now, and companies can still stand out as individuals rather than just being, the one that has, I'm the best in this area 3,000 times on their website to be the highest ranked or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
How would a contractor go about getting those beautiful glowing reviews rather than just somebody putting 5 stars? Is there a strategy there?
There is a strategy. And let me tell you what the best strategy is. And P.S., this is the most low-tech, low-fidelity strategy, and this is what's will work. Because you will see there are 100 software companies, and probably 1,000 now, thanks to Claude, that are like, we'll help you get reviews. So how many times have you been to the dentist, and then you get a text message afterwards, and it's like, Dr. Jones enjoyed seeing you for your checkup. Please give a 5-star review.
Mm-hmm.
And how many times, maybe you love Dr. Jones, but like most of the time you forget and you don't give the review.
100%.
So, right. And so in my view, I tell people, I'm like, yeah, have the software. It's fine. You'll get like 3% response rate. And it's like a little de minimis nice thing to have. I was like, but if you want to get reviews, this is what you do. You have your technicians at the end of the first of all, you do an excellent service, period. End of debate. I don't want to hear any excuses about that. That is the base standard. Also, don't track mud into their house. Also, be nice to their dogs, say hi to their kids. Like, do all that. That's the base level. Okay, we've gotten there. Now what do you do at the end? You have the technician. You coach your technicians to do this. You practice with them. You role play. They say, Mrs. Jones, it's been a real pleasure to serve you today. I just want you to know ABC HVAC, we are a locally owned company. Our owners were born and raised in Washington, D.C., went to local schools here. We're not like these big companies where we spend a ton of money on marketing. The way we grow and the way we're able to deliver you an excellent and affordable service is through reviews from wonderful people like you. So if you could give us a review today, I would be so honored to, provide you as a thank you for your time. You're not paying for the review. As a thank you for your time, I would be glad to give you $20 off your service call today. And then the key is they just shut up and wait. And then the person's like, oh, yes, I'll do that. Well, okay, here's the QR code. And they have the sticker on the back of their phone. Let me give you the QR code. So because then the person's going to be like, yeah, sure, I'll pay. And then later tonight after dinner, I'm going to give you the review. There's none of that. None of that. This transaction's happening right now. And so you say, well, thank you. And then they get a click on their phone. Oh, the review's gone through. Great. Well, here's the invoice and you see the $20 off. Thank you so much. So it's like sincerity. We're local. We're doing this because we're not like those big guys. We're here to look you in the eye and give you a great service for an affordable price. That slays. If you can and so few people execute on this well, PS, because they don't role play with their tax. Their tax feel icky doing it. I don't know. But the people who do that, they role play with their tax, and then there's a $20 Amazon gift card or a $20 local ice cream shop, whatever gift card, waiting for that tech when they come back to the office. Thank you for getting this review. So, there's a little marginal cost to this. That works really well.
I was just going to ask about the incentive side of things for the techs because I love that.
Totally.
Align what you want them to do with what the business needs.
Yeah, totally. And don't be a cheapskate. Give them $20. It's no big deal. And the techs will be happy about it. And guess what? A great tech can make an extra $400 a month that way with very little work. And it gets them thinking, this is the culture we have. Our culture is one of service and excellence and accountability and commitment to every customer. So it's money well spent in terms of building an excellent culture.
I love the reinforcement of the culture there too. Like, this is what we stand for. This is why we're doing this. It's for the customers. We just need enough people to know that, so that way we can continue to do this and help the greater community.
Exactly. We talk to our clients. We're like, you have to give them the Disneyland experience. Like, when you go to Six Flags, it's like, it's okay. It's a nice day. It's fun. We have some popcorn. We go on some rides. And then there's Disneyland, which is like the whole family plans for it for years. We save. It's amazing. It's immersive. There's stories. Every single person there is incredibly nice to you. It's just, it's a lifetime memory, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, you want to give people the Disneyland experience, not the Six Flags experience, because they'll gladly pay you more for the honor of having that level of experience.
Oh, man. And then they just keep coming back in 10, 15 years. I love that.
That's the idea. And then you say to them, and by the way, your system is going to last 15 years. And don't you want the contractor who was here 15 years ago and is going to be here 15 years from now, rather than that, guy who has one truck and not even sure if he has a license and, maybe gone next year when your system has some problems.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. Right. You want that trust. You need the trust. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. No. So it's like, that's what I say. It's like, you got to be the therapist for your clients, right?
Yeah, no, but that strategy is just fabulous. I absolutely love everything about that. Man, that's really good.
Well, I'm glad I could leave you with something today too.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So final thoughts. What would you tell our listeners, our HVAC contractors who are looking to grow? What do they need to be focused on when it comes to the money?
From the money side, know your numbers. So whether they're good or bad, you need to know them. That starts with clean books and a clean accounting system. So grab all the receipts, document everything. Number wise, the number one number you need to know is gross profit. You'll know net just by seeing what's in your bank account, but you got to know your gross profit. That's going to tell you what's profitable per job. And that's really the number you can tweak. You'll be able to go from there.
And the more you know it, the less boring it is, I've found.
Yes.
It's only boring when you're scared of it.
Yes, 100%. The number is super motivating when it's going well. So we just got to keep tweaking things to get it to go well.
Exactly. Austin, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been so much fun talking to you. I am going to share this video with all of our clients who always need a little financial boot camp, whether they are starting out or they are $10 million, because this is an area for improvement for all of us. And so thank you so much. And Austin has some great resources to share that I'm going to share in the transcript in the notes for people at every stage of their business, and really good checklists for what you need to be thinking about at every stage. So take a look at those, because I read them, I enjoyed them, and they are an invaluable thing.
Yeah, they go a lot deeper than what we did here, but I don't think we had 4 hours to do it. So
it's not an MBA course, people.
Right.
Well, thank you, Austin, so much. Thank you to everyone. We're really a pleasure to talk to you.
Thanks for having me, Sarah. See ya.